Hi everyone, I'm Renee and welcome to my channel. Today I'll show you how to make a Gumpaste Poppy. Once again, I've teamed up with my Dessert Network friends for a collaboration. This time we're bringing you a collection of poppy themed videos. You can find links to each of their videos in the description box below, or I'll have them linked at the end of this video. The first step is to form the centers. You will need a small amount of white gum paste. I use Nicholas Lodge's recipe, which I will have linked below. You also need some egg white or gum glue and some hooked wires. These are 24 gauge paper covered wires. And you need a pair of tweezers. These have a curved edge and typically are used to place dragées on a cake. You'll be able to find a full supply list in the description box below. Now break off a small amount of the white gum paste, enough to make a ball that is about 1/4 of an inch in diameter. Roll that into a nice smooth ball. Dip a hooked wire into the egg white to pick up a very small amount, and then insert that into your ball of gum paste so it's about 3/4 of the way through. Now we'll pinch off the bottom to secure it to the wire and remove any excess. Just be sure to maintain the ball shape. Now you're going to hold the gum paste between your fingers and not the wire so that you have a secure hold, and use the tweezers to pinch little ridges around the top. To help me keep these ridges evenly spaced, I do the first one and then go do the one exactly across from it, and then I can fill in each half, and this will help me with my spacing. And set this aside to dry overnight or until it's completely dried. And now we'll move on to form the petals. Now I am using my Cell Cakes groove board today. If you don't have a groove board and you don't want to purchase one, you can check out my anemone flower tutorial where I show how to wire petals without it. I'll have a link to that video below. I also am using this really good quality cutter and veiner set from Sugar Art Studio. I'll have linked below, but I'll also show you another option for making these petals without this set. And I will also be using paper covered wires. These are 26 gauge that I've cut to 4-inch lengths. I'm pressing a little rope of red tinted gum paste down into my groove board, and I'm going to roll it out very thin. You can find poppies in a huge variety of beautiful colors, but I've chosen to go for the more classic reddish orange that comes to mind when you think of poppy flowers. And because we're going to dust this flower with petal dust at the end, you don't have to make the gum paste a very dark color. You'll notice it's tinted red, but it's not a really dark, strong red. When the gum paste is rolled out, you're going to transfer it to your cutting surface. And this is just a textured cutting mat that I like to use to get clean edges from my cuts. And cut out your petals with the vein going about 1/3 to halfway up the petal. Poppies can have anywhere from 2 to 6 petals. Today we're going to make a flower with 5 petals, and all 5 of the petals will be this same size. Now insert your wire into the groove. No egg white or gum glue necessary. It will just kind of make a mess because the petal is so thin. Then pinch it off and secure it at the base. Now we'll give the petals some texture with this 2-piece veiner. And as you can see, this set gives the petal some beautiful detail. Now I have my petal face down on my foam pad and I'm using a cell pin, but you could use a ball tool, and I'm going to thin and slightly ruffle the edges of the petal. You're going to repeat all of these steps for all 5 petals up to this point. The difference between the inner and outer petals is going to come in the shape that we set them to dry in. I'm using my apple tray as a former. We're going to have 3 outer petals, and for those ones I'm going to bend slightly the upper edge of the petal backwards so that when we assemble the flower, the outer petals bend outwards. I also like to make a little bit of variety in the petals so they don't look so machine made and there's a little bit of different movement. So on some of them, even though I'm generally bending the petal backwards, I'll curve some of them inwards and give them a little crease just so that there's some difference between the petals. Now for the 2 inner petals, I'm going to use my apple tray as a former as well so they have a cup shape, but I want these petals to kind of bend and curve inwards. So I'm going to use little pieces of paper towel just to prop the outer edges so that they have an inward cup. Once you've made all 5 petals for each flower, plus a few extra in case of breakage, you're going to let these dry completely. As I said at the beginning, I do have a tip if you want to make a poppy without buying a special cutter set. I have my 6-piece teardrop set by Atico, and for the same size flower, I'm going to start with the 3rd smallest size, and I'm going to give it a good bend so that I make a much broader, wider petal. Cut your petals using this cutter. But as you can see, it's still not quite the right shape. So I'm going to take the 2nd from the largest cutter and I'm going to trim down about 1/4 of an inch off the top. And now you can see that is much closer to the shape of the poppy cutter. And if you want to get the same texture on your petal without getting a poppy veiner, you can use a peony veiner. This one I have is by First Impressions, and I made the top piece myself. And as you can see, the texture is very, very similar. And here next to the petals I made using the poppy set, you can see it's nearly identical. Once everything's dry, we're ready to color and assemble. For the center, I'm going to start by dusting the entire thing with a chartreuse green petal dust. Then I'm going to go straight on the top of the center with some sunflower yellow. Then hit the top of those ridges with some black petal dust. And that's it for the center. Now for the petals, I'm going to dust the entire thing with a bright orangey red. The color I am using here, I got at my local cake supply store, and they repackaged their petal dust, so I'm not really sure what brand or color this is. It's just called red. Any bright orangey red will do. Crystal Colors has 2 that I think would be very comparable. One is called Autumn Blaze and the other is called Blood Orange, both of which I will link below. But to get the shade here, it's just a bright orangey red. There are a lot of poppy red colors out there that I think have a more cool tone, but for this flower I'm going with the warmer orangey tone. Because the gum paste is tinted, I'm not going to worry about the back of the petal. When I'm coloring petals all one color like this, I like to work production line style. So I'm going to first go through and dust all 5 of the petals with this red, and then once that is done, I'll go back in and I'll show you how I do the highlight. Once I have my red base completed, I'm going to go in with some of the sunflower yellow and add highlights to the high points of the petal. I'm using pre-made black stamens, and they come in these little bunches that are double-ended, and they're secured with a wire in the middle, which I'm just going to uncoil. Make sure that you hold on to this little bunch with a good grip, because if they get loose, you're going to have a difficult time trying to put them back together. Now take your floral tape, and you want to very tightly wrap this bunch around the center. Then use a good strong pair of scissors to cut this in the middle, and you end up with 2 little bunches. So each little bundle that you purchase can make 2 flowers. Now that everything is colored and ready, we can start assembling our flower. Take your center and wrap a little bit of that floral tape right around the base, and this will just give the center wire something to grip onto when you insert this into the stamens. Now you'll take your little stamen bundle and just kind of press down into the middle to open them up and make a spot for our center. Insert the wire of the center down through the center of the stamens, and it's going to be a little bit of an effort to pull that down so it nestles right into the stamens. Because we put that floral tape there, we're going to have a nice snug tight fit, and that's going to keep it from going anywhere. Now all that's left to do is to add the petals, starting with the center ones that we cupped inwards a little bit. Give it a very slight bend at the base of the wire and nestle it right up underneath the stamens and tape it on. The second inner petal goes directly opposite that first one. Now just arrange the last 3 petals around those inner 2. Give them slightly more of a bend and make sure that they're arranged so that those gaps are covered. You could leave this with 4 petals, just positioning the outer 2 in between those inner 2. And it would be a very pretty and realistic looking flower, but I'm going to go ahead and add that 3rd one so it's a little bit more rounded. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to check out the other projects from this Poppy collaboration. You can click each image on screen now or find links to all of the videos as well as the entire playlist in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos.